Okay, let's do this. Hey, quick message today, and I think we can sum it up in this very brief statement, which is embrace truth, don't fear it. Okay, what exactly does that mean? Embrace truth, don't fear it. So there is this human tendency to want to protect our beliefs, whether it's a singular idea or whether it is something that is much more broad and comprehensive and perhaps is a fundamental pillar to our overall worldview. And again, I think this is something that we all have probably dealt with at some point in our journey of just discovery, learning, education, seeking truth, trying to make sense of what we see and interpret it according to some lens or framework for interpretation that we have, which we could, again, call our worldview. Of course, this fear of the truth is unhelpful. I mean, I think we all can recognize that on its surface, that ideally we want to embrace truth. We want to all feel like we love truth. We are seekers of truth. We care about the truth. We want to be aligned with the truth. And I think when you ask someone if that is how they feel about the truth, I think that they would agree with all those things. Now, again, this is where we'd get into debates about what is true or isn't true, etc. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the idea that we have a desire to align with truth, but then our actions in the real world demonstrate otherwise. And again, this is just, some of the frailties that come along with the human condition. This tendency to not want to challenge our own assumptions, challenge our own paradigms. We say we want to align with the truth, but then at the same time, we have concerns about doing that, or we have fears about doing that in a comprehensive way or in a complete way. So I want to share a couple quotations. Interestingly enough, they all, or some of them have some dubious attribution, but that's okay. The ideas are still worth discussing. And the first of them is this idea that sunlight is the best disinfectant, okay? So this is typically attributed to one of the justices of the Supreme Court, Louis Brandeis, and the quotation is over 100 years old. I think it goes back to 1913. And in a metaphorical sense, I also believe that quotation is quite true, literally. But in a metaphorical sense, of course, it calls to mind this idea that exposing something, or that transparency is key, that people, their ideas, their values should be exposed, should be opened, particularly when it comes to people of influence or people that are in prominent positions. And of course, I agree with that. All right, let's look at another idea. So this idea, and you'll see the quotation exists in various different forms, but one of these is that which can be destroyed by the truth should be. And this is often attributed to Carl Sagan, and sometimes the quotation will exist in a slightly different form. But I actually think it's more accurately attributed to the author P.C. Hodgel in one of her books that is called The Seeker's Mask. But regardless of where the thought or the idea or the quotation originally came from, it's a powerful idea that if you strip away a false veneer, whether it be from an idea or from a person, from a political party, a political movement, some religious ideas, or some other effort or program or movement, etc., then what are you left with? And so if this movement, or if this person, or if their platform, or if whatever, if it is built upon fake ideas, and you strip those away, and nothing is left, and that movement collapses in on itself, then it should collapse in on itself once you strip away all that is false, and the only thing that is left is the dirty, nasty, ugly truth. So that's kind of the idea behind this quotation is, if that's what happens, then that should happen. And I largely tend to agree with that idea, right? And then the last one is just, and again, it's another quotation that exists in many forms, but it often goes something like this. The truth is a lion. You don't have to defend it. Just let it loose. It will defend itself. And this is attributed sometimes to St. Augustine of Hippo, but sometimes it's also attributed in a different form to the 18th century British preacher Charles Spurgeon. So again, regardless of where it came from, it's an interesting idea because, again, it calls to mind the importance of truth and how much it's that it's not so much that you have to defend the truth as much as you have to strip away from false ideas that sometimes clutter the truth or drown out the message of the truth or water down the truth. Now, there are people who have problems with that quotation. In fact, there are a lot of individuals who have gone to great lengths to try and say, hey, St. Augustine did not make that statement. So again, and what that does is it's because some people don't like the quotation, I think it's because some people would say, hey, you do have to defend the truth, and it's important to defend the truth. So I'm not super important in trying to decipher the exact meaning of that quotation or whether or not we're defending the truth or whether or not we are merely stripping away other ideas so that the truth itself in its purest form emerges. That's more my concern, is just understanding that I do agree with this idea that the truth is powerful and that we should not fear the truth, that the truth is something that we should embrace. But in saying that we embrace it, what that means is we have to come to terms with our own fears. And sometimes that means deciding, hey, I'm going to look into this. I want to know what the truth is about this particular topic or this particular idea or this particular person or this particular movement or this particular institution. I want to know. And so therefore, I am going to dig into this. I'm going to look into this because I want to know the truth. And once I find the truth, I'm going to let the truth speak for itself. And if I find an inconvenient truth, then so be it. And if that requires me to rework my paradigms or challenge some of the assumptions that I, up to this point, have held dear, then so be it. And so I think that's what it means to be a lover of truth and someone who can ultimately embrace truth. But even as I say that, I do recognize that it is difficult. It is difficult to have to question some of the fundamental pillars of our framework of beliefs or our worldview, just to use that term. So anyway, hope some of that was helpful, but if it was not, I'm just kind of communicating to you guys some of the ideas that I've been kicking around in my own mind recently about how important truth is and about how we have to care about the truth. And when I say that, it's not just about lip service to the truth. It's about seeking to find the truth, understand the truth, and align with the truth. And in seeking to align with the truth, sometimes that means we're going to have to do away either with beliefs, ideas, or parts of our own lives that we find out don't actually align with that truth. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.